Things Hoped For by Andrew Clements. Day 8. I've been thinking of questions to ask Robert all during dinner, but we walked north on Broadway without talking. I've just been giving a brand new portrait of my Uncle Hank, and I need to let the paint dry a little. But after 10 seconds, my curiosity won't be still. So that was William in the police station, right? And you went to the police and turned him in, right? Was that your errand this morning? Robert's got his hand stuffed into his jacket pockets. He slips me a sideways glance and a half smile. I also made an important stop at the Italian bakery. I ignore his attempt at humor because this isn't funny, none of it. But why did you think William would be at the police station? Robert shrugs. Well, for starters, he told us yesterday that he would be very interested to see how the case turned out. You remember that, right? I nod, and Robert says, and he also bragged about what a hotshot snooper he is. But most of all, I was pretty sure William would come there to contact me again. I don't think I fooled him last night at all. He knows that I know a lot more than I told him. And 2 years ago, I can remember how completely desperate I was to find anything, to follow up any clue, even a tiny one if it might mean I could get my life back again. And as far as William is concerned, I am a huge clue, a real break. He could have hung around this house and watched for me, but it's February and it's cold out there. But he knew that I had to be at the police station at 3 p.m. today. So was I sure he'd show up? No. But I'd have bet you a trumpet that he would, and he did. So what did you tell the detective? Ah, Robert says. That was the artistic part, to tell the truth, and nothing but the truth, but not quite the whole truth. I told Detective Keenan that there was this crazy guy who had slipped into your grandpa's house yesterday during all the confusion, and that he was hiding in the study when everyone was giving their statements. I nod. So far, so true. Robert ignores my commentary. And then I told the detective that this crazy guy talked to us after everyone left, and that he said he was dying to know how the case would turn out. Also completely true. And then I told him that this man said he'd figured out a way to avoid the most sophisticated security system, and that he'd been acting like a regular Robin Hood at some of the richest stores in Manhattan. So that's not quite the truth, I say. Close enough. And then I said, it's almost like this guy thinks he's invisible or something, which would make somebody into a pretty great thief. No, you said that? Robert grins. Sure did. But that's the big bait. Catching a broad daylight robber would do a lot for a detective's career. And I also gave him William's juice glass from the dinner dishes last night, so he could match fingerprints from the crime scenes, because he had to leave fingerprints all over town. Invisible robbers can't wear gloves. And standing there, with my mouth open, it dawns on me just how far out of my league Robert is. The guy's a plotter, but I want to know the rest. So what'd he say when you said that stuff about how he thinks he's invisible? Well, the detective took this long pause, like a count to 10, because now he's not so sure about me. And he said, so you think he might try to hang around the meeting this afternoon, right in the police station? And I say, this man seems to think he can get away with anything. Also true, and also great bait for a detective. Then this was the crowning touch. I said, if he's so good at hiding himself, I think an infrared camera would probably make him show up plain as day. Robert. I stop short on the sidewalk and he faces me, beaming. And that's what they did. They lit up their camera, and they tracked his body heat right there in the room after we left. And it was 4 guys to 1, so I'm thinking William the Invisible Creep is in jail, right now. I reach into my shoulder bag and pull out my cell phone. Call him. Robert looks at me like I'm insane. I mean Detective Keenan. Call him right now. I want to really know that this man isn't walking around my neighborhood tonight, because if he's still on the loose and he wants to find you, he's going to come to Grandpa's house again. And I don't want that to happen. Or if it might happen, then I want to be prepared. So call, okay, for me? Robert takes the phone and calls 411 to get the non-emergency number of the 24th precinct. Hello, can I talk with Detective Keenan? It's Robert Phillips calling. Robert nods to me and whispers, he's there. Detective, this is Robert. We talked about that crazy guy, remember? I just wanted to know if you got him. Oh, that's too bad. Robert shoots me a glance and I gasp and grab his arm. He pulls loose and keeps talking. But I really called because I remembered something else he told me yesterday. He said he had an apartment north of 14th Street, a first-floor walk above, and an old meat packing plant. Right. With the electronic keypad instead of a lock. Right. So I thought you should know that about that. Well, anyway, good luck. And Robert hangs up. I'm frantic and my voice has gone up an octave. They didn't get him? Robert, that's really bad. It's terrible because he's not stupid and he knows the police were out looking for him. And nobody could have told them but you or me. So now he knows that one of us is tried to turn him in, and he'll try to do something. Robert waves his hand at me. Hold it. Calm down. The detective was lying to me. I'm sure they got him. No doubt at all. So just relax. I'm stunned. Lying? What do you mean? He's a policeman. Why would he lie? Police don't do that. Right, says Robert, unless it's in the interest of the public safety. If the police have a photo of a dangerous suspect, but the suspect doesn't know that, do they go on TV and say, we have no information at this time? Yes, they do, because that lie makes the suspect think he can walk around freely, and then the police can spot him and arrest him. Do you think that detective who's got an invisible man in his custody is going to tell people about it? Even me? No way. And about the rest of it, whether William tells him about me being invisible and all that, I don't know what's going to come of that. But for now, I think the police are going to keep a tight lid on this. Or maybe they'll make William an offer he can't refuse. Make him go to work for them. Who knows? Anyway, I'm sure it was right to get him off the streets. So we've done our civic duty, and we'll have to see how all the rest of it works. Because that's not our job. So, where's the ice cream in this city? How Robert can think about ice cream right now is beyond my understanding. Of course, I've been on such an emotional seesaw today that everything is beyond my understanding. But Robert turns on his ice cream radar, which guides us across 105th Street, where we find a sweet shop that's actually selling waffle cones in February. And he orders for both of us 2 massive cones with 3 scoops each, whipped cream, nuts, sprinkles, the works. Then, by carefully decorating his nose with an assortment of toppings, Robert finally gets me to smile. Even though I'm having a little fun, and even though I'm grateful for the good things that have happened today, I'm still uneasy about the Williams situation, and always, I feel the sadness that won't go away, because I can't stop thinking about my grandpa, and that big freezer, about what he did. And the selfish part of me is still wishing that all the complications would vanish, because I want to get my story back, my story. I want to be a musician, and suddenly I know why. It's because I've been imagining that it's going to be easy. It's because I think I'll be able to lose myself in great sweeps of harmony, and the all-knowing, infallible conductor will always lead the way. And me, I imagine myself gliding seamlessly from one movement to the next, with hardly a rustle as I turn the pages of the score, because I want things to work out the way they do when Bach is in charge, or Paganini, or Jane Austen, or even Yeats, because I'm desperate for a nice, tidy ending, maybe with a pleasant rhyme or two, or that wonderful last burst of symphonic harmony that makes me want to shout yes, but it's not happening that way. Chapter 17, Gifts. It's Monday night, and Robert tells me again that I should practice, but I say, no, it's all right. You go first tonight. And like a gentleman, he goes down to the rehearsal room and leaves me alone. With Daddy upstairs watching TV, I hide out in my room. I've talked to my mom for half an hour, said hi to both my sisters, and I've talked to both my big brothers. Plus, I've had a call from Uncle Belden, and while we were talking, I could hear a West Virginia catbird singing, and I pictured its little throat moving, pictured it sitting in a tree out in front of his crooked front porch. And as he said goodbye, Uncle Belden wished me well on my auditions. My first audition is at 11 tomorrow morning, but I don't care anymore. I don't want to go. There's a line in the Yeats poem that comes winging up out of my memory, and it slaps me hard. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. And it hurts to feel this way. I'm so used to being a little misorganized and little miss punctuality, and I've been a perfectionist for so long that I can't remember any other way to be. I didn't even get to my lesson this afternoon, and I missed my only practice session with the grad student who's doing the piano accompaniment on the Sibelius during my audition. It's like I don't know myself anymore. I keep thinking about the questions Robert asked me this afternoon after we had our ice cream. He said, I don't believe that, what your grandpa said in his letter. He said, I'm at the point in my life where I know what's going to happen next. And I don't think anybody can know that, do you? I mean, when he climbed into that freezer, what was he thinking? Because you never know what's going to happen next, not really. You just have to take your best shot and keep hoping things will work out, right? Because no matter what the coroner says, I don't really think your grandpa died of natural causes. Do you? I hate to say it, but it seems to me like he was kind of bailing out. And didn't he sort of create more problems than he solved? What do you think? The worst part is that I just keep shrugging my shoulders. I couldn't answer any of Robert's questions. I still can't. I wanted to say, well, if Grandpa hadn't done what he did, I probably wouldn't have met you, and that would have been too bad. But I couldn't say that. It's dark now, and I turn off the lights in my room so the place matches my mood. And I lie across my bed and stare up into nothing. And I think back just 5 days ago. Last Wednesday night, Grandpa was sitting upstairs watching CNN. I had a good lesson with Pyotr Milovich and was down in the practice room making Sibelius smile. My first audition was still almost a week away, but I was going to be ready. I was building up my confidence. I was almost at the peak of my preparation, and soon I would march across the plaza at Lincoln Center, throw open the doors of the Juilliard School, and show those people how a violin ought to sound. And now I almost want to laugh or cry. What pride and what ignorance to think everything was going to just trot along like the pony ride at the state fair in Lewisburg, to think that Lizzie would get to marry Mr. Darcy in real life, and to think that I could keep telling myself my own perfect little story. Right. Think again. I know that I'll go and take that audition at Juilliard tomorrow. I'm not a no-show. I'd still go if both my arms were broken. But I don't kid myself. I know I'm not ready, mentally or musically. So I'll have to muddle my way through. My cell phone rings and the blue light fills the room. All these calls. Everybody means well, I know that. And everyone wants to say how sorry they are about Grandpa. But I don't want to talk to one more person about him. I don't want to share those memories. I need to keep that part of my story for myself. It's on the fourth ring now, and I want to whip the thing against the wall. But, like a nice little girl, I flip open the phone. Hello? Hi, is this Gwen? This is Alicia. Bobby gave me your number. Is this a good time? Oh, hi. Sure, this is good. Robert talks about you all the time, which feels like the right thing to say to a girlfriend when she's there and he's here. She giggles. Robert. I keep forgetting that he's trying to use his professional name now. Another giggle, and there's a whiff of sarcasm in her voice. I like her. She says, anyway, Bobby said it's been a rough couple of days, and I'm so sorry about your grandfather, but that's not why I called. Bobby said if I asked, maybe you'd play a little violin for me, over the phone. He said I should request a fast caprice. I can't help smiling. He's trying to be my big helper, and he's recruited you to cheer me up, right? She laughs, a beautiful sound. That's my Bobby, and you're Robert. Not very subtle, but sweet. But I wouldn't have called if I didn't really want to hear you play. Bobby says you're a great violinist and he never exaggerates, at least not about music. So how about it? It's going to take me a minute or two to get ready. Want to wait? Minutes, hours, days, I'm all ears. Again, a trace of irony. I toss the phone on the bed, flip on the light, and run upstairs to get my violin. My dad's in front of the TV and he says, hey there, you going to play for me now? How about something by Bach? A little later, Daddy. And I'm back down the stairs. Talking loud toward the phone, I say, I'm opening the case, and this is a quick pluck or two to check the tuning, and now I have to get the bow tight, and it needs a little rosin. I pick up the phone and say, could you hear any of that? Loud and clear, and this is by Paganini, right? Right. He's this wild, romantic Italian guy, a real genius, like a violin rock star, and he wrote these 24 solo pieces back around 1800, and they're just incredible, and impossible. So here goes. This is Caprice number 2. I bring 2 pillows to the edge of my bed, put the phone on top of them, stand up straight, set my bow, take a deep breath, and begin. The fast caprice, and it is, because it's all 16th notes, and it dips and sweeps and skips all over the fingerboard. It's been over 24 hours since I've played, probably the longest break I've had in years. But I'm hearing and feeling every note, and every hair on my bow is alive and speaking. And the insane double stops and the non-stop octaves that constantly challenge the melody. It's all flowing and the music is pouring out. It's when I'm riding my bow on this wild climb up the fingerboard, and it's when I'm skidding down the other side. That's when I'm suddenly hearing Charlie Daniels, and he's playing. The Devil Went Down to Georgia. The instrumental section in the middle. Because this caprice and that song, they're blood brothers. With the same sizzle and pop and showmanship, except the bearded guy with the leather hat plays so much faster. And when I'm almost to the end, and I'm out there on the edge of the musical universe, and I start trying to re-enter the atmosphere so I can land this song, there's Charlie again, running side by side with Paganini, and I'm thinking that I'd pay $1 million if just once I could see old Niccolo up there on the stage of Austin City Limits, just him and Charlie Daniels, both of them setting their strings on fire. And when I finally drop into the wrenching, clenching, double-stopped finish of the caprice, I can't quite believe what I've just heard and felt, because it's been 3 minutes of pure beauty, and I played that piece with my whole self, my whole heart, and I played it with the lights on. I picked up the phone, but for 10 seconds, maybe 15, I can't talk because something new just happened, something important. Alicia doesn't talk either. Finally, I clear my throat and say, so, that was it. She's quiet another few moments. It was just beautiful, really. Thank you, perfect. And Bobby's right about you, I'm sure of it. Then she pauses. Bobby told me that you know what happened to him 2 years ago. Yes, and he told you about the man that showed up here in the city? Yes, he told me. Scary. Then I say, look, I hope this isn't too personal or anything, but when Robert disappeared for all those weeks, like afterwards, did he change from experience? She thinks a second or two and says, he didn't do a Jekyll and Hyde or anything, if that's what you mean, but yes, there was a change, like with music. Before it happened, he liked to play the trumpet, and he was in the jazz band at his school and everything, but then afterwards, it just started to mean more to him. He got serious about music. That's what I think changed. He got more serious about a lot of things, and he thinks more. We both do. I don't know what to say next, but she can tell, and she saves me. Well, listen, thanks again for my private concert. I loved it, and I hope we can really meet someday, because I want to hear you play in person, and I want to talk more, okay? Sure, I say. I'd like that. I mean it. And thanks for calling, and thank Bobby for putting you up to it. We both laugh and they say goodbye. Gifts. Moments like this are gifts. A person calls from 1,000 miles away and it feels like a friend, and suddenly there's some light again. I dig around in my shoulder bag so I can check my list of audition times for the millionth time. In the bag, I see the letter, the one from the envelope Grandpa sent to Mr. Grant. I stuffed it in there at the end of the meeting at the police station. My name's on the front, blue ink and Grandpa's shaky writing. It's almost too precious to tear open, and I nearly don't, because really, what else could Grandpa possibly say to me or give to me? But I can't resist, and there's a single sheet of paper with something folded inside. At first, I think he's giving me one of Grandmother's necklaces, but I unfold the paper, and his army dog tags drop onto the bed, the ones he wore for 6 years during World War II. So far tonight, a blind girl who doesn't complain about her life has made me laugh from 1,000 miles away, and now my grandpa, who never once complained about anything, has made me cry from somewhere else, somewhere beyond 1,000 miles away. But I dry my eyes. I pick up my borrowed violin and bow, and I walk down to the basement and I knock on the rehearsal room door. And when Robert opens it, I smile and say, "Time's up. I've got an audition tomorrow." Chapter 18, Greater Love. On Tuesday morning, I wake up early. I don't touch my violin. I don't even look at it. I shower and dress and go upstairs. I'm not hungry, but I force myself to eat 2 eggs and a piece of toast anyway. There's not much talk. After breakfast, I get my case, and at the door, Robert gives me a hug, and he says, "I know you'll do great. You will." And then Daddy and I walk over to Broadway and get a cab. 10 minutes later, we're walking across the plaza at Lincoln Center. Alice Tully Hall, the Metropolitan Opera, Avery Fisher Hall. Some of the best musicians in the world will be rehearsing and performing here all week long. It makes me feel small. In the lobby of the school, I check in at the tables along the back wall, and then Daddy and I sit down to wait. My accompanist comes and asks if I want to find a practice room and warm up. It's probably a good idea, but I'd rather be still. I'm glad my dad is here. This is not his world at all, and he's completely unimpressed. And that helps me. No matter what happens here today, cars will still be expertly repaired at the Pro Shop Garage off Interstate 79 near Elkview, West Virginia. No matter what, life will go on. It's good to remember that. I reach into the pocket of my jacket, then open my palm in Daddy's direction and say, "Look what Grandpa gave me." He takes the dog tags, squints to read them, and then runs his fingers across the stamped lettering. It's not a small thing to give these up. You know that, right? I nod, but I hold back my feelings. It's not the right moment to be getting all emotional. Then Daddy says, "You find the hidden message yet?" "What? What message?" He turns the ID over and taps his thick fingernail against the dull metal above Grandpa's name. I take it from him and bring it up close. And I see something scratched in the stainless steel, maybe by a pin or the point of a nice knife years and years ago. There are lots of other small scratches, and the surface is worn so smooth that I have to catch the light just right to see anything at all. Out loud, I say, "J1513, right?" My dad nods. "What's it mean?" He shakes his head, then he taps the middle of his chest, and I hear a metallic clink. Scratched the same thing on my own tags the day I got them. Secret code, soldier stuff. But I'll give you a clue. That J, it doesn't stand for Jesus. My dad doesn't have a subtle bone in his body, which is one of the reasons I love him so much. I say, "So it's a Bible verse, right?" Another nod. "And the J stands for Joshua?" "Nothing." "Judges?" "Nothing." "Job?" "Jeremiah?" I know my books of the Bible, and I run through the rest of the J's in order. Nothing until I say John, and there's a flicker of a smile. "So it's John 15, verse 13, right?" "Can't say." "Secret code stuff." "Secret code soldier stuff." "Come on, Daddy, tell me, please." But he shakes his head. "I ought to know your Bible better." I look at the clock, and I've got 17 minutes, so I grab the tags and I say, "Save my seat," because I want to know this, right now. It feels important. Everything feels important right now, and there's got to be a Bible somewhere close, because New York City has everything, even Bibles. I'm out the door, and as I trot past the fountain at the center of the plaza, I think there has to be a bookstore within a block or two. Then I look up and I adjust my course, because now I know where I'm going. Just across Columbus, straight toward the 15-foot-high red neon letters that say Hotel Empire. In 2 minutes, I'm at the front desk, and in 4 minutes, a friendly woman in a housekeeper's uniform is handing me a Bible, courtesy of the Gideons. I sit in a huge red chair and open the book. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John 12, John 14, John 15. And there's a verse 13. And it's so simple. One sentence. Soldier stuff. "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." Walking back across Columbus Avenue, the tears are streaming down my face because now I know. I know my grandpa tucked himself into that foxhole last Thursday. He did it for me. He knew he was going. and he hid himself so it wouldn't make a commotion. He tried to buy me a few more precious days of harmony and order, peace and quiet. If he could have moved all the mountains of the West Virginia and brought them here to shelter me, he would have, but in the end he hoped that 1 or 2 more days in my little practice room would be enough, and it was. Grandpa said the people who loved him and cared for him would understand, and now I do, because now I have a whole story. I have my own story, and I love my story, but I know I can't tell it alone, not now, because stories have centers, but they don't have edges, no boundaries, and I needed to learn that. Thank you, Grandpa, and Mama, and Daddy, and Mr. Richards, and Piotr, and Robert, and Alicia, too, even William. No edges. Passing the fountain, I slipped the chain over my head and tugged Grandpa's tags inside my white shirt. A minute later, my eyes wiped dry, I walked back into the lobby of the school. I sit down again next to my dad, and when I take his hand, he turns and smiles at me. 5 minutes later, a woman at the registration table calls my name. I pick up my violin, and I nod and smile at my accompanist, because she's part of my story too. Together we walk to the elevator, ride to the 3rd floor, then take a right along the corridor to find room 311. And I am not afraid. I can play.